Maybe you've heard of this book before, but you haven't read it because it's too thick. Well, hey, my name is Michael, and today we're going to be talking about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I'm just going to give you the main points. Hopefully, you'll go back and read the book one day, but if you don't, at least these habits, these main points will get you going in the right direction. Stephen Covey, when he wrote this book, he mentioned that he looked at the last 200 years of basically productivity and success literature, and he saw that the last 50 years was very outward focused on appearance, and that there was a lack of focusing on the inward person. So he created these 7 habits, and these 7 habits make you on the inside what you need to be so that you can do most of whatever you want and be successful on the outside. So the first habit that he gives is be proactive. He talks about this guy named Viktor Frankl, and there's a lot of studies done on this man who he was in the concentration camps during World War II, and he discovered that between your experience and what you choose to think about that experience determines who you are, and you have the freedom to choose. Meaning this, 2 people can go through the same situation and one of them decide, you know what, because my boss yelled at me, I'm gonna be mad at my boss. That's one choice. And another person can go through the same exact situation and say, you know what, my boss yelled at me, but I'm gonna allow that to make me better. And it may have been inappropriate that my boss yelled at me, but that's okay. I'm gonna choose a certain different response. So everybody has the choice about how they respond to things, and 2 people can respond to the same situation differently, but that's your choice. The first habit is be productive, and the second habit is begin with the end in mind. And Dr. Covey opens this chapter with an illustration of picture yourself standing at your own funeral. What would be said about you, and what do you want to be said about you? If you want to be said that you're a family man, if you want to be said, like for myself, that I was a pastor who loved people, then you have to be careful not to let the work ambition stifle out your family life. And the idea here is anything that you start, you want to think about the end result whenever you're at the beginning of that thing you're starting, and especially life. He gives another illustration of climbing a ladder. It's more important that the ladder is leaning on the right building, because you'd hate to climb all the way up the ladder and then realize it was leaning against the wrong building. So whenever you're living your life, it's important to say, here's what I care about. Here's the people that I care about, if that's it, or here's the hobbies that I really want my time to go towards. And this helps you keep things straight in your own life and not spend too much time focused on the wrong things. He gives also another practical advice of have a personal mission statement, and in that mission statement, write out your values. I'm a Christian and I love God, and so my values, to the best of my ability, are living according to God's word. And to me, that matters so much more than some of the other areas in life. So if you apply those things, that is the second habit, begin with the end in mind. The third habit is put first things first. Now, there's an illustration in this habit of 4 quadrants, and you can go online and just look up 7 habits, 4 quadrants, and a million pictures will pop up. I already did it, but I can't throw them up there because of copyright problems. So if you want to Google that after the video, that'd be great. But he talks about the 4 quadrants, and effective people spend all their time in the top 2 quadrants. Quadrants are basically split up between things that are urgent and things that are important, things that are not urgent and things that are not important. And somebody who is really good at what they do, they spend a lot of their time not doing important things last minute, but doing important things ahead of time. And they don't get distracted by things like social media, which would be like a not important and not urgent thing. It's not that social media is bad. Social media can be used very wisely, but it has to be limited. You need to do it in the right amount. And this person is not running around fighting fires at work. They're working ahead of time on the most important things. And this is someone who plans. A decent amount of time is going to be spent planning. So that person who is the most effective is in quadrant 2. If you have more questions, we could probably do a whole video just on that one illustration. But look up the 4 quadrants and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really helpful. So put first things first. Another concept in habit 3 is the things that matter the most in life should never come at the expense of the things that matter least. If you want to be a great dad, then that needs to come first before you're great at your job. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do your best in both areas. You should, but sometimes you have to learn how to say no to things because you value other things more. So make sure that the first things come first and you don't spend so much time on things that in the end don't really matter that much. The fourth habit is think win-win. A lot of people will in their life think, in order for me to do well at something, I have to push this person down. You'll hear this when someone's having a conversation. They might tear other people down because it makes them feel better about themselves. And this idea of think win-win is, for me to do well at something does not mean someone else has to do poorly. For someone to be a great pastor does not mean that you have to tear down other pastors, or if you're going to be a great banker, you don't have to push other people down. Or for you to become great in the finance world, other people don't have to be bad accountants. So this idea of think win-win is, there's lots of opportunities for so many people to do well in what they want to do. And in order for you to be better, it doesn't mean that you have to tear other people down. You can encourage them, and you can look for opportunities to help make other people better as well. The fifth habit is seek first to understand and then to be understood. The illustration in this chapter is really cool. There's someone who has an eye problem, and they go to an eye doctor and say, "Can you help me?" And the doctor, without listening to the problem, gives the individual his glasses, and he says, "Okay, your problem solved." And then the person's like, "What? You didn't do anything for me. I still have the same eye problem. Did you even listen?" And this is something that we tend to do as people. We tend to be quick to think of our own answer to a problem instead of really listening to the person who's talking to us. And someone who seeks first to understand and then to be understood seeks to understand the person they're talking to. Like, where are they coming from? Why do they feel the way they feel? And can I do something to help that before do this because it works? So, and the sixth habit is synergize. There's an illustration, actually not in this book, but a horse can pull like 7,000 pounds on its own on a cart, but two horses can pull not double, not 14,000 pounds, but 21,000 pounds. And it's because the combined effort of the two equals a lot more than the two horses' effort individually. And in life, this is so true. The work that a team can do is so much greater than the work that one person can do. And someone who understands the law of synergy won't try to solo accomplish things. They'll try to get as many people involved and try to do things as a team rather than on their own. And habit 7 is sharpen the saw. And this illustration that opens the chapter talks about two guys. Each one has a tree in their yard, and it's the same size, and they have the same saw, and they're going to start cutting down at the same time. Only difference is one of the guys early that morning sharpens his saw and gets the tree cut down much faster. Now, later in the afternoon, the second fellow who didn't sharpen the saw is still cutting the tree down, and the first fella comes over, and the second fella's like, "Hey, how did you get it cut down so fast?" And the first guy's like, "Oh, I sharpened my saw, and I got it cut down right away." And the second guy's like, "Oh man, I wish I had time to sharpen my saw. I'm too busy cutting the tree." And it just gives you this idea of how silly is that? Well, we tend to do this the same in our lives. We do the same thing over and over, and we don't try to improve our understanding. We try to just work harder, and a lot of times that's not the solution. Sometimes you need more competence in an area. Sometimes you need to not do as much so you can do a few things well instead of a lot of things okay. So that's habit 7, sharpen the saw. That was a really funny illustration. Whenever I was reading, I was laughing. But this book talks about 7 habits that each build on top of each other. And if you'll use these habits, you'll have a huge advantage in whatever you're doing. And you can go to people and see really successful people that maybe they don't know this book even word for word the title, but they're using the concept. So the bigger idea is the concepts. So I hope you can apply some of these. It'll make a huge difference in your life. Hopefully I save you some time by just summarizing it, and you'll have the motivation to go back and read at a later time. Don't forget to look up those 4 quadrants, and we'll see you in the next video.